Okay, so yesterday we got an email asking how to contact the Utah senators ahead of the impeachment trial. That got our wheels turning, and we wanted to make sure you know how to contact all of your lawmakers, and then once you get a hold of them, how to best make sure your voice is heard. So we put together a little how-to. First up, getting a hold of the federal delegation. So here are the D.C. and Salt Lake City phone numbers for both Senators Mike Lee and Mitt Romney. We'll leave this up for a second so you can write them down, take a screenshot or something like that. We just did a quick Google search and we're able to find the numbers on their Senate pages in about 30 seconds. So easy stuff so far. If you have opinions about the impeachment hearing, it is now in their hands. And so you can go to them for that. So impeachment is out of their hands, but it's still good to know who is and how to contact your representative. You can go to the website on your screen or Google to find your rep. You'll be directed to the House of Representatives website where you just put in your zip code and then you can see who your rep is and you can click their name, find out how to contact them. So here in Utah, we have a volunteer legislature, which means they all have day jobs and are only in session about 45 days out of the year. Those 45 days will start next week, and our lawmakers have a lot to work on, from the tax bill to education bills to clean air bills and a lot more. We hear from every legislator we talk to that they want to hear from the people they represent so they can know how things will impact them. But do you know who your legislator is? It's the first question. Doug Wright walks us through how to find out and how to contact them ahead of this year's session.
Open up your internet browser and go to le.utah.gov. Down here in the right-hand corner, click My Legislators. Here, you enter your address and zip code. We're going to use the station's address. KSL Broadcast House is in House District 24, and we're represented by Jen Daly Provost. And in Senate District 2, represented by Derek Kitchen. You can click on their names to find out how to contact them.
All right, some good information. So you've gotten a hold of your representative, either locally or federally. Now what? We have Emily Coleman here, community activist, to talk about maybe that part of the message. I mean, once you get a hold of your legislator.
Sure. So once you know who you're talking to, you need to figure out what you're going to say. So the first thing you need to figure out is what's your message? What is the thing that you want them to do? Is it a bill? Do you want them to sponsor a bill? Do you want them to vote no on a bill? So understand that. Make sure your message is original. It's unique. You're not copying and pasting from someone else's message already or another website. A lot of activists will kind of introduce some of these messages. It's really best to craft your own based on your own personal story. The other really important thing is to make sure that you are identifying yourself as a constituent. It's a great idea to put your address in there, where you live, your name, so that they know how to contact you. Many legislators will reply, not all of them, but there are several who will reply to emails throughout the session. The last part is just make it brief and be respectful. If you want to get a response back, it's probably best to treat them like a human being and have a conversation and start that conversation with them. Right,
yeah. So when you're former congressional staffer, is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so who actually is reading these messages?
If you're on the state level, the individual legislators themselves are reading them. Okay. Many of them don't have their own staff, and so all of their correspondence goes into their individual email boxes. You can craft your own subject line and your own message very easily. On a federal level, those are first kind of batched electronically. They'll batch the ones that are exactly the same, so we read that message once, and we just see how many are sent, so it kind of dilutes that. Okay. And then after that, those are managed initially by interns, but then some messages are passed on to the representative individually. Many are passed on to legislative staffers who are crafting legislation or crafting messaging to talk about how are we going to respond to constituents. So there's a lot of different hands that it can pass through. Right,
yeah. So as we get into the legislative session, of course, 2020 being the election year and, a lot of things that we're talking about, including the tax referendum going on now, I'm sure we've all gotten those messages by email, phone call, email, to contact your representative. You're saying they're actually looking, they're reading.
Certainly. I mean, especially on the Utah State Legislature, if you're talking about, Senate or House, it's really best to call. especially if you have a very timely issue like impeachment, which we mentioned earlier. That's something you're going to want to call your Senate office about immediately. Probably wouldn't want to wait. You could wait for an email. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but having the opportunity to talk face-to-face with the staffer, I think, is really important for key issues like that.
Right, yeah. Another good way just to get involved. I mean, we always know the ballot box, of course, is the way that you can put your voice out there, but even after that, sounds like
your vote is always your first line of defense. But, you know, in an election year, that's certainly something to keep in mind. But as we go forward, the next best thing is to make sure you're in contact with your legislator and letting them know what you want.
Yeah, okay. Emily Coleman, thank you for joining us. We appreciate that. We will be right back.